Now first, I want to start that any accusations in this story are alleged and not to be taken as a matter of fact, as this case is still unsolved. Now, let's get into the night and events that changed hip-hop forever. It's October 1994, a regular day at Tupac's home in Stone Mountain, Georgia, with his crew. They often fired their tools in the backyard, having the neighborhood sound like the 4th of July. Tupac was known for having great aim for his constant practice and knew how to handle most guns. A few weeks ago, in Atlanta, he filmed an interview with BET to discuss his current struggles in his career and life, reflecting on his current stardom.
Yeah, I'm extremely angry, confused. You know, a lot of the times when I sat up in court, I couldn't defend myself. All I ever wanted to do was make me and everybody around me feel more comfortable about where we were. You know what I'm saying? About the places that we stay. This is our home base. Let's build it up. Let's be happy about where we come from. You know what I'm saying?
He also took photos for Source magazine cover, an article where he talked about his many open cases. He is viewed as a dominant star with 2 movies recently released, one of them, Poetic Justice, reaching #1 at box office, and in music with platinum records. Even the soundtrack to the cultural classic movie Above the Rim went platinum. Whenever he was back at home, everything was about fun, but unfortunately, it was often short-lived, having to say goodbye to everyone and heading back to New York City. He's currently filming a movie called Bullet, co-starring Mickey Rourke. And New York's nightlife keeps his music career active with a lot of studio sessions lined up, working on his new album, Me Against the World. So far, his year has been busy, managing a packed schedule while stressed over the possibility of prison. His main reasons to be in New York is he's fighting a case that he and most people believe was a setup. He keeps declaring his innocence to the media, but despite that, whispers in the industry are about him being too much of a risk, making it harder to get new movie deals and show money, cutting off some of his main income. His music money goes to legal fees, and his movie checks cover his home and family in Georgia. He feels the pressure as it seems his money is drying up. He's constantly in the news, sometimes about his movies, interviews, or music, but mostly for legal troubles at this time. With all the attention, he tries to flip it, offering some cheap features and going studio to studio, giving deals to any DJ or artist who wants a verse from Tupac. In New York, his trust circle is small. He's known to be with his close friend, rapper Stretch, and even Biggie, whom he helped break both into the industry and supported them the most along the way. If you wanted to know about Pac's and Biggie's real relationship and how they actually met, check out this video for a complete breakdown. Now, during this time, whenever he was in New York, he also stayed with the current love of his life, Keisha. They met in June and been inseparable when he wasn't working or in court. They practically lived together in her apartment. Time with her was a breath of fresh air for Tupac. Whenever he came home from work or trial, they'd avoid heavy talk and just enjoy time together, cooking, watching TV, and laughing. They got so close that Tupac bought her their own pet dog named Playa, with a ring in the box, teasing the potential of even getting married. Before court, she'd help him get ready and cook breakfast for him. Whenever it was time to leave, he stayed alert. Part of his regular attire was being strapped with 2 guns on each side. He was tangled in street politics with serious figures like Haitian Jack, seen as a close friend but now co-defendant whose case was separated with lighter charges, leaving many to suspect he might have been an informant. To understand the times, if you were a black celebrity, it was known that Haitian Jack and his circle, including one of the up-and-coming bosses, Jimmy Hinchman, were allegedly the ones to check in with, involved in the interconnections of New York City. Tupac even knew rumors followed them, lining up rich dealers to be robbed and allegedly even extorting artists. Tupac began feeling like this might be part of their plan and distancing himself from them. Even his friend Biggie warned him about hanging with those serious street guys, but what confused Tupac most was still seeing Biggie and Bad Boy around them. Even with the Jimmy Hinchman involved in label dealings, it made Pac think Puffy might already be in too deep, even being extorted by Jimmy's crew, or a part of it. They often approached Tupac to sign with Bad Boy or let them manage him, but he always refused. He was fine with this label, and he remembered Biggie venting about the shady deal Puffy had him under, how he couldn't collect royalties since Puffy owned his masters in publishing. But Jimmy Hinchman, a wise, successful street figure, saw Tupac as a ticket into the music industry, an easy chance of getting out of the streets and going legit. Recently, he even started his own label and artist management company with his first signed artist, rapper Lil Sean. but he always kept tabs on Tupac, hoping he would be his marquee signed artist. He wanted to prove to Andre Harrell that he could be successful in the industry, and at the time, Andre was one of the biggest moguls in music. He was Puffy's mentor, becoming a top executive and head of his own successful record label, Uptown Records, responsible for the artists like Mary J. Blige, Jodeci, Heavy D, and I'll Be Sure, with hits like You Remind Me, Real Love by Mary J, Forever My Lady, and Stay by Jodeci, plus many more. So getting a co-sign or help from Andre was the dream connection that everyone wanted, including Puff Daddy, who was once signed to Andre, and they both had huge success together, breaking the artist mention. But since Puffy now has started his own label, Bad Boy Records, that's slowly getting traction with hit singles like Flavor in Your Ear by one of his first signed artists, Craig Mack. He was already known as the remix hit maker, associated with top hit singles in R&B, but his focus now is taking over hip-hop to become a more catalog-depth label with big hits, and the artist he signed to lead the way was Notorious B.I.G. By this time, they just released Ready to Die, and it's not yet gold or platinum, but it's just a matter of time. Already viewed as a classic album in New York, who views Biggie as their golden child to compete against the West Coast and South's new dominance in music. And in 1994, one thing they all saw, Tupac, was a meal ticket. The most talked about rapper at the time, a rare breed of an artist that made him feel bigger than music, because you weren't watching a career, you were watching a life, his real life, and ideas generated more attention than any label marketing campaign could ever. He's already a hip-hop star who's a dual threat with acting, so getting Tupac signed at the time would have immediately given them a boost as hip-hop's new leading label. His influence was felt. Puffy even had his staff study Tupac's video and song, I Get Around, feeling that this is what he wanted to capture, the style of persona and hit-making which inspired Biggie's Juicy video. At the same time, Pac was still in New York filming Bullet and bonded with his co-star, Mickey Rourke. The two hit it off almost instantly, two outlaws from different worlds. They stayed in the same luxury hotel, moved through New York nightlife together, and became a spectacle. Wherever they went, crowds followed, clubs overflowed, and chaos became normal. One night at the restaurant Nello's, someone asked Pac about his pending assault case, referring to the men arrested with him, one being Haitian Jack as his friends. Pac corrected them. I wish people would stop calling my co-defendants my friends. They ain't my friends. Said how even Mike Tyson told him those guys were bad news. He thought the comment was off the record. The next day, the Daily News ran a headline saying Tupac dissed his co-defendants, calling them hanger-ons. The article spread fast, and it reached Haitian Jack's circle, which didn't sit right. Jack was upset, felt Tupac was messing up his business of also trying to go legit in the industry through his connections, making it a mission to meet with Tupac to discuss. Pac was also surprised about the news. Understanding the street cats he was dealing with, he kept an even smaller circle now, avoiding some of the spots that brought unnecessary trouble. Also, he stopped arming himself at the time because everywhere he went, a New York cop was sure to follow, whether he was partying around town, at an interview or a conference, or just hanging out. Despite the feeling of constantly being watched, he had to stay in the city for business and, most importantly, the trial. He was in court nearly every day of the week, and during the trial, Tupac's mind often drifted to writing poems or movie scripts. One day after court, Tupac met with his family who was with him. Surprisingly, on this day, he bumped into Haitian Jack. Jack said politely, "What's up?" like old friends, but Tupac was done, shrugged him off. Jack seemed surprised, but Pac, in front of his family, told Jack he's cutting ties. Said to stall him out with all the lies. He made it clear he wouldn't be extorted or made a fool of. He told all of his loved ones in front of Haitian Jack what really took place that night and who was really guilty, and everyone took it in. Haitian Jack stayed silent, said nothing. The moment didn't end loudly, but it never left the space. And behind the scenes, Jack let everyone know he is no longer good with Tupac, silently giving them a green light, no longer being backed by Jack in the streets. Some at the time already viewed Tupac as a hothead. Though he was falsely being blamed for a case they knew he didn't commit, they didn't like the constant attention he was bringing. After a long day, Andre Harrell, who is now co-producer of the hit TV show New York Undercover, reached out to Tupac, understood his struggles, but still saw his talent. Even feeling Pac's star power was now affordable, he requested to meet with him. They met up at a bar. Andre explained that he would like to get him a part in the show, but most studios, including those tied to New York Undercover, had labeled Pac a risk and a bad guy. Tupac, interested, replied, "Give me a chance to meet your cast and crew. I'll tell them what's really going on. Don't believe the media." Andre agreed to set it up. Despite his schedule, he still made time for one of his closest friends, including his best friend since high school, someone he considered a soulmate, Jada Pinkett. He attended the world premiere of her film, A Low Down Dirty Shame. Whenever they saw each other, they lit up. Even in a crowd, it felt like they were alone, catching up on lost time. In a world constantly judging who Tupac was, Jada was one of the few who truly knew him. Also at the event, one of Tupac's old street ties paid him a visit, Jimmy Henchman, who approached him and was upset, accusing him of talking reckless in the press, embarrassing people tied to him. Pac stood on his words, but the tension shifted when Jimmy told Tupac he needs a favor. To meet with him, he has a business opportunity. Tupac agreed. Fast forward, when Tupac showed up to meet with Jimmy, he was disappointed and felt it was a waste of his time after he realized the two men Jimmy brought were music industry lawyers, and Jimmy pitched him a deal to sign with them. But again, Tupac refused. Inside, he didn't trust them. He didn't want to allow a chance for them to extort him like he felt they were with other artists. This refusal this time was clear to Jimmy that Tupac won't ever be interested, but he wasn't done with him just yet. He knew Tupac was stressed financially, offering cheap features for extra cash, so it was the perfect opportunity making a plan to use him to break his artist, Little Sean. So first, he told Little Sean that Tupac would like to do a record with him. Sean was surprised. He had already met Tupac before on one occasion, recalling the first time he was with Haitian Jack, who asked Sean to ride with him to pick up Tupac. Sean asked, "The movie star?" Jack nodded yes. So they drove out to get him. When they arrived and Pac got in, the soft-spoken rapper Sean expected wasn't there. Pac nodded at him, popped in a new Cali rapper, Spice One's mixtape, blasted the volume. Then he casually laid 2 Glocks on the seat beside him. Sean was stunned, uneasy. He cut the night short and went his own way, feeling like they both were headed for trouble. So he had mixed feelings about Jimmy with Tupac, but Jimmy told him it would be a good look to get this feature on his album. So Sean agreed. After this, Jimmy then made a plan to boost his artist even more by scheduling the studio session at Quad Studios, one of the top recording studios in New York at the time. Next, he invited Puffy, telling him to stop by the studio since he will have Sean and Tupac there recording. He wanted them to check him out. Then next, he invited Andre Harrell, telling him Tupac wanted to record with his artist Little Sean because he's hot. He should come and check it out as well. It made sense to Andre because he also wanted to follow up with Tupac about his New York Undercover offer to get him on the show, so he agrees. With Thanksgiving approaching and a short break from trial, Tupac flew back home to be with his family in Georgia, introducing everyone to his lady, Keisha. Tupac bought a house in Stone Mountain, Georgia to be close with his family, like Aunt Glo, who was hosting the family Thanksgiving at her home. And when I say family, it was nearly 50 people packed in, cooking, laughing, and even playing their annual family touch football outside. Tupac cherished these moments.
So much pressure in the air. Can you get away, darling?
Cheerleaders, ladies. Uh-oh, Nelson. Get in, Nelson. They want you, boy.
Yeah, do your thing.
Let's get away.
Ah, interference. Oh, Nelson.
I wanna take up all your time. Do the next in line. Tell me your signs, let me find I see you calling,
Okay, hold up.
and I'm careful
Yo, chill
not
out.
to scare you.
You're fucked up, right?
Anticipation of
Damn, y'all. What's up? I ain't seen you in a while. How's it going?
lose a precision.
You right? You alright? Let me check out your spread or your food. This gonna be good.
If only they could last forever, but Court was waiting the following week. One day while preparing to fly back to New York, he met up with Greg Taylor, a rim shop owner who had just finished souping up his new BMW. Greg agreed to drive him to the airport, and on the way, he told Pac he should avoid New York and just stay home. Everything is going good for him here in Georgia. Pac explained he had too many obligations to miss, but that is his plan. Now, back in New York, the trial was set to wrap the next day with a verdict. After court, Tupac spoke to reporters outside, voicing his frustrations with the trial, insisting he was innocent and being unfairly blamed for a crime he didn't commit.
So, what do you think they're doing this for? You were talking in the elevator. What do you think they're doing it for? Why they're doing this to you?
Because, I mean, the way this country is successful is that we have one set of rules and everybody follows it. If anybody gets outside of that set of rules and they're in the public view like I am, you know,
it's like detrimental to everybody following the rules if I'm representing like to what they think is that I represent lawlessness and the outlaw mentality, and I represent that thug mentality from the street. So they feel like if they could punish me, then it'll punish people who are not as brave as I am, who don't speak out against things like me, who not scared to walk through the streets with no bodyguard. So they need to put me in jail. These other guys, they don't have to put in jail because they can arrest them on smaller things. They can't arrest me on those small things. They got to frame me. They got to do things like this. They got to have, 30 charges, and none of them have to do with me. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so she wasn't prepared for what happened to where those people that did this. They were all in the same hotel as me. They were all right in the same room with me. Why am I the only one in court right now? Why is the cameras all on me? And in the report, in all these charges, I didn't do nothing. I'm charged with being in concert with some guys. Well, where they at? Why me? Because I'm Tupac. No, I'm not angry at them. I'm angry at the system. I don't want nobody else to go to jail. You know what I'm saying? But I don't want to go to jail for something I didn't do. You know what I'm saying? I just don't want to be the scapegoat. I want to be, only way I've been practicing my whole life to live my life is to be responsible for what I do. I don't know how to be responsible for what every black male did. I don't know. Yes, I am going to say that I'm a thug. That's because I came from the gutter and I'm still here. I'm not saying I'm a thug because I want to rob you and rape people and things. I'm a businessman. I'm a businessman because you find me at my places of business. Tell me about that. I hope they do, but it's hard for me to believe that a jury full of older, more middle-class women are going to understand where I'm coming from, because y'all barely understand where I'm coming from, and y'all cover murders and shit every day, and y'all treat me like I'm New York's most notorious criminal, and y'all know it's people throwing babies out of windows, putting them in an incinerator. All I do is make raps. All I do is rap and talk loud. My biggest crime is talking loud. You know what I'm saying? Y'all don't have nothing else besides it.
As he walked away, his driver pulled up and a female fan stopped him and handed him a bouquet of roses. Surprised, he smiled, smelled them, hugged, and thanked her for her support. He was excited because Andre Harrell had also called back, scheduling a visit to the set of New York Undercover to meet with the cast. When Tupac arrived, they gave him a tour of the set, and he was invited into Malik Yoba's trailer to have a meeting. Malik asked him, "What's your deal, man? Are you going to waste your talents? What's up with all the issues you got?" Tupac didn't hesitate to open up. He broke down every charge against him, explained how the system was targeting him and how the media twisted his story. He even took accountability in hindsight and shared his plans to rebuild his image, to be an example of change. The meeting was a success. Everyone realized they had judged him wrong, surprised by how genuine, articulate, and sincere he was.
I'm not trying to create problems, I just met Tupac. And to the world, to my man Tupac, but it's his first time we actually sat. He sat in my dressing room for like an hour, and we talked about his experience. And for all you people who doubt my man Tupac, until you actually talk to him, don't press it. Don't believe the hype. Don't believe the media, because I met, and I'm not saying that he's a saint either. I just met a very powerful, passionate human being, and I want to do whatever I can to help him out, because I think that he has a lot of potential. And my first question to him was, what do you want? What do you want out of life, man? Because it seems like you're on a downward spiral, and I can't believe that you're going to blow your potential with that. And I just think that he is somebody who I've learned from. He's 23 years old, I'm 27, but he was out there. He's been out there, and I've seen how easy it is for them to peg you. Yes. To make you the fearful one, public enemy number one. And
after the meeting, he told Keisha he wouldn't be home until late. He had a studio session scheduled. He didn't want her there because of his current issues in the streets. He also told her to not answer the door if Jack and his crew stops by. That night, he agreed to meet up with the local DJ/producer, Ron G, who'd been asking him for a feature on his upcoming mixtape. Biggie had mentioned Ron G before, so Pac promised him he would check his music out, doing it as a favor for free. And for the night, he linked up again with his close friend, rapper Stretch. Freddie Nichols, who was Stretch's manager, and Zayd, his sister Set's boyfriend. They arrived at Ron G's studio, who was excited to finally link with Tupac, and he started playing his beats for them to record on. Tupac paused to call Keisha, telling her he made it to the studio and hasn't eaten and if she could have dinner ready. She said okay, then he got back to work. Across town, major moves were happening at another studio, Quad Recording Studios. Notorious B.I.G. had booked a session with his new group, Junior Mafia. They were hyped, celebrating their newly signed deal and recording their first single. Biggie was especially excited. Rumors are he found a clever loophole. Since Puffy owned the rights and profits to anything Biggie wrote, he wrote songs under his group's name, giving them publishing rights, which they then quietly gave back to him. To keep Puffy from finding out, he booked the session in secret. The same time just happens to be the studio session that Jimmy booked for his artist, Lil Sean, promising to get Tupac to the studio to record. Everyone was showing up as Jimmy planned, including Andre Harrell. So now they're just waiting on Tupac, who he pages to call him. Tupac was writing and recording when he saw the page and called back.
Hello?
It's Jimmy. I got some paper for you. A feature for my artist, Lil Sean. Pac was surprised, knowing the tension with Haitian Jack in their last meeting. He also knew Jimmy was trying to go legit brokering deals and just wanted to use him for his benefit, and a Tupac feature could boost Jimmy's credibility fast. Pac was hesitant but needed the money, especially if it was in cash, since it would be under the table.
Okay,
Pac said.
I'll do it for $7,000, but cash only.
Jimmy agreed, gave Pac the address to Quad Studios, and hung up. Jimmy was trying to broker it legit as a label and told Andre Tupac requested cash only, but Andre said they only have a check, so Jimmy called Pac back. They only got a check.
I said cash only.
Pac replied. Jimmy said, okay, I'll handle it, and hung up. On the other side of town, Puffy just finished recording his scene for Biggie's music video, Warning, and he caught wind that Biggie was recording music with Junior Mafia in a studio nearby, which so happens to be the same place and time as Jimmy's artist Lil Sean's session that he was already invited to. So Puffy figured he could also check to see what's up with Biggie. He arrives at Sean's studio session, first meeting up with Jimmy and Andre to plan out the night before checking up on Big. Lil Sean was surprised by the amount of people, and even real street cats in the studio session, but he figured they must really want to meet Tupac, who Jimmy was still trying to get the cash Tupac requested. He called back again. I got $5,000 now cash, and someone else will bring the rest when you get here. Tupac refused.
7,000 exactly, and only from you. I'm not coming unless you got it.
Jimmy said okay, no problem, and hung up again. A few minutes later, he called back one last time. I got the 7,000 in cash. Pac said,
All right, I'm on my way.
and hung up. For whatever reason, Jimmy felt slighted, like Pac was trying to little man. Knowing his power in the streets, he brushed it off or let everyone know Pac is coming, just running late. Once word spread, more people in the industry showed up, hoping to meet or work with Tupac. Half of New York City's hip-hop scene seemed to be in the building, so on the 8th floor is Lil Sean's session, and down on the 5th floor is Biggie's and Junior Mafia session. And meanwhile, Tupac had left Ron G's studio and made a quick stop to grab some more broccoli. Time passed, and everyone with Jimmy was getting impatient, waiting. He'd already paged Tupac and was still waiting on a callback. For Tupac, Jimmy never really liked him, whether it was jealousy, envy, or thinking Pac thought too much of himself. He especially didn't like how Tupac had disrespected his street partner, Haitian Jack. Now, he was sitting in a room full of execs, his artists, his street cats, all growing restless, asking, when's Pac coming? Now, this part is where it gets sketchy, and it's all allegedly. Jimmy decided Pac needed humbling. He let a few chosen people in the studio know his new change of plans he had. Pac finished smoking his fresh broccoli, ready to head out, but feeling uneasy. He knew the kind of people he had problems with. Still, he ignored the feeling. He called Keisha before leaving, telling her he'd be home even later, heading to another session he wasn't comfortable about. She said okay and hung up. Problem now was they got lost. He called Jimmy back for directions, and once he realized, told him he's only 5 minutes away, and they hang up. When they finally arrived, parking in the nearby garage, since Tupac had a bad feeling, especially with how Jimmy seemed so desperate for him to arrive, to be safe, he strapped up with his 2 guns. While walking on the way, that bad feeling still crept back in. While lost in thought, he suddenly heard a voice from above, a familiar one. Yo, Pac! He looked up to see little C's, Biggie's little homie, calling from a balcony. If C's was there, Biggie had to be too. Come up, C's shouted. Pac smiled, relieved. If Big was upstairs, this had to be legit business, not some street drama. He yelled what up to C's and told him he was coming up. Little C's told him he'll meet him downstairs. As Tupac approached the entrance, he noticed a black man standing outside, posted on the wall, dressed like a Brooklyn cat, fatigues and boots. So Pac assumed he was with Biggie. The man looked but said nothing, which was rare. Whether love or hate, most people always said something when they saw Pac. He buzzed the door to get let inside. Upstairs, little C's told Biggie, yo, Pac's downstairs. Excited, Biggie said, dope, go get him. And C's headed down to bring Pac up. Once buzzed in, Tupac and his crew step inside. Immediately, notices another man dressed like the one outside, except he's sitting down, reading a newspaper. The man doesn't acknowledge him either, which surprises Tupac even more. His guard is still a little off, but he figures no one would try something where they are, not in the middle of a city in a professional recording studio at the least. So he and his crew walk past, heading down the hall toward the elevator. Then, in a split second, 2 men rush Pac with guns drawn. "Everybody down. You know what time it is. Run your shit." A third gunman points his weapon at Pac's crew, who immediately drop to the floor. Everyone's shocked to see Tupac still standing, trying to process what's happening. But also, he's strapped with 2 guns, contemplating defending himself. A robber presses his gun against his stomach, warning him to get down. All Tupac can think about is having to shit through a colostomy bag the rest of his life if he got shot there. The robber nudges him again, "Take off your jewels and get down." Tupac is stalling him, telling him to hold on. One of the men shouts, "Man, shoot that mother." Tupac decides he's not backing down. In a split second, reaches for his gun. The robbers yell all at once, "Gun!" and shots explode. After the intense moment, Tupac is sitting there. 2 bullets graze the top of his head. One tears through his hand, making his own gun go off. The bullet from his gun rips through his leg and groin, and then hits his friend Freddie in the abdomen. The shot to Tupac's leg also hit an artery, which causes him to collapse on the floor. The robbers immediately jump on him, kicking and pistol whipping him. His vision fades to white. Everything goes silent. Meanwhile, unknown, Little C's and his group mate Nino get in the elevator heading down to meet Tupac and bring him up. On the way, Nino swears he heard some gunshots. When they get to the bottom and doors open, they are immediately met with a gunman who rushes up, tells them to get back and get into the elevator. They notice Tupac and his crew on the ground and panics. Little C's is screaming and pressing the elevator button so frantically that he's hitting open and close at the same time, freezing the lift until it finally shuts. The robbers get back to what they're doing, snatch all the jewelry they can from Tupac and his crew. They grab one of his guns they see on the floor and run off. Once gone, Zayd gets up, sees Pac blacked out, fearing he might be dead. He checks on him. Stretch says he's fine, then looks over to see Freddie clutching his stomach. Pac now sits up and says he's hurt. Zayd spots Pac's other gun on the floor, grabs it, and rushes out after the robbers. Outside, he's shocked. First thing he sees is a cop parked right in front, an officer even watching with a smirk on his face. Zayd panics and hides the gun. He walks out and sees a stripper from the neighboring gentleman's club out front. He asks her, "Did you see 3 men run by?" She shrugs. "I don't know nothing." Confused, Zayd asks again, "Did you see any men run by here?" She just keeps repeating, "I don't know nothing." Tired of going back and forth, he gives up and runs down the sidewalk toward the corner, hoping to spot the robbers. Tupac, now injured and bleeding, comes outside, followed by Freddie and Stretch, all surprised looking around. Tupac now also approaches the lady outside. He asks her, "Did you see any men run by?" She tells him the same, "I don't know nothing." Zayd sees him arguing with the same lady he was, hearing Pac snapping on her. "I didn't ask if you know anything. Did you see some guys run by?" Zayd tells Tupac to not waste his time with her. She isn't telling anything. So then they both now scan the area, looking for any sign of the attackers. "There they are," Tupac says, pointing. Zayd pulls out the gun. "Where?" "There," Pac insists. Zayd squints confused. "Are you talking about the police?" Tupac says, "Yeah." Zayd shakes his head. "Man, f them. They were smiling at me when I came out." Pac's face hardens. Realization hits him. It's serious now. He feels he's been set up. He tells everyone, "Let's go inside." They buzz to be let back in. Freddie collapses on the wall and tells them he'll wait outside for the ambulance. So now Tupac, Zayd, and Stretch get buzzed back in and jump in the elevator, heading up to the session with Little Sean he was booked for. Pac is bleeding bad from his head. Zayd looks at him, stunned. "You've been shot in the head." 2 grazes clearly run across Pac's scalp. The adrenaline numbs him, but he catches Zayd's concern, tells him, "Don't break up on me. Let's stay focused." Upstairs, Little C's burst into the studio. Pac's being robbed downstairs. Everyone's surprised. Biggie grabs a gun, tells him to stay here, and heads down to see what's up. Tupac, who is now heading up the opposite direction. So Biggie is going to see what's up with Tupac, and Tupac is going up to get some answers about what happened. Once they arrive, Pac and his crew brace themselves as the elevator doors slide open. The first person they see is Puffy. Zayd raises the gun, pointing it directly at him, shouts, "Hands up, everybody!" Everyone is startled, shocked at what they see. Tupac limps in, bleeding. And as he's scanning the room, seeing faces he knows everywhere, with many of them dripped in jewelry, seeing all the successful people in the studio, he thinks, "Why did I get robbed? All the money's up here." He spots Jimmy, who looks shocked. Tupac asks, "Why are you surprised? You're the only one who knew exactly when I was coming." He He starts cursing and accusing Jimmy of setting him up. Jimmy denies it and tells Tupac to sit down. Let's talk. Little Sean now rushes out of the booth in a panic. Pac, you bleeding. Sit down. He gets so frustrated that he starts kicking people out of the studio. Pac's thrown off by how frantic he is. He opens his jacket, sees the bullet hole through his pants with blood, and exhales deeply. He is helped over to sit down on the nearby couch. Pain now setting in. Zayd, still with the gun out, tells everyone, if anybody touches my man, they're getting shot. Jimmy calls Stretch over for a private convo. Tupac is surprised of the two speaking quietly together. It bugged him. What could they possibly be talking about? And why is Stretch even talking to Jimmy? Calls for Stretch, hands him his bag of broccoli and asks him to roll him one. There's someone to give him a phone. He calls Keisha, tells her to call his mom Afeni. He's just been shot. Shocked, she says okay, and he hangs up. She immediately calls Afeni, also his manager, before rushing out the door to find which hospital. Andre told people in the studio to call for an ambulance now, while Tupac sat there trying to gather his thoughts, smoking a blunt with bloody hands. He observes that everyone around won't even look him in his eyes. Everyone appeared to be shook. Where's my f***ing money? I'm not leaving without it, he shouted at Jimmy. They all get alerted that the cops have arrived and coming up. Lil Sean approaches Zayd and shows him the corner room where a piano is in. Tells him to hide his piece inside it before the cops come up. Zayd thanks him, opens up the piano, and sets it inside. Right after, the paramedics have now arrived in the studio. They immediately start working on Tupac, loading him onto the stretcher, moving his bloody clothes to see his leg wound. As they checked his wounds, another familiar face appeared, the arresting officer from his ongoing court case. Surprisingly, while grinning, he asked, "How's it hanging?" Tupac glared back. "Hi, Officer McKernan," he said sarcastically. He is now starting to feel more pain. They rolled him to the elevator, but it was too narrow to lay him flat. So to make matters worse, they had to stand the stretcher upright. Everyone in the studio can't do anything but stare in silence. The visual of Tupac standing up in the stretcher, in pain. Tupac takes a last look at Jimmy and tells him, "You're gonna have to explain to me when I come out of the hospital why you set me up." And the doors slowly close. The cops force everyone out the studio in the other elevator heading downstairs. Biggie and his crew are already downstairs being held in the now crowded lobby with almost everyone downstairs speechless at the scene. A glimpse of what took place with Tupac's blue bandana and a pool of blood on the floor. Next, Tupac is rolled out on the stretcher in front of everyone, all staring at him shocked. To their surprise, he lifts his middle finger as he passes them, letting them know exactly how he feels. Once the doors open outside, flashes burst from photographers' cameras. Tupac yells, "I can't believe you're taking my picture on a stretcher." Capturing this moment in time, they loaded him up in the ambulance and quickly drove him away to Bellevue Hospital. Once arrived, it took some time, but the doctors managed to stop the blood from his leg, which was difficult. He is even more surprised when they tell him he's been shot 5 times. Before Tupac could take it all in, he starts getting calls in his room at the hospital. Every time he picks up, it's someone saying,
"You ain't dead yet?"
or that they're gonna finish the job. So Tupac refuses painkillers and any meds, tells his mom Afeni, who has arrived with Keisha and his team, that he doesn't feel safe and has to go. Afeni sees how serious he is and agrees. So against doctor's orders, he checks himself out of the hospital. And if you want to know what happened next with this pending court case the following day, just after being shot, make sure to check out our video titled "The Real Reason Tupac Went to Prison." And be on the lookout for our next video answering the questions who all played a role and was likely behind the Quad Studio shooting. And make sure to like and subscribe for more. And as always, appreciate the support.
Tupac Shakur is recovering from 5 gunshot wounds. The rapper found himself in the line of fire last night on a New York City street. It's time to get plugged into the latest headlines inside entertainment.
This hour, the subject is Tupac Shakur, rapper, actor, court defendant, and now shooting victim. Tupac Shakur's lawyers are implying this may be a New York Police Department conspiracy against Tupac, as the first officer on the scene that night was on the same side of the street as the shooting, yet no suspect was caught. That officer, Craig McKernan, was also the first officer on the scene last year at Tupac's alleged sexual assault encounter at the Park Meridian Hotel, which is about 10 blocks from here. Police denied those claims at a Wednesday morning press conference where they also had this to say.
I believe that this was a robbery. Anybody who was going to walk into that building was going to be robbed. They said, give up the jewelry and get on the floor. Tupac was resisted. The other 3 complied.
When you say resisted, what did he do? He refused to go down to the floor or to say something back?
He resisted and a struggle ensued, and that's when the shots rang out.